Hi guys, Rashid here from IU Media. Recently, I've been on social media and there's been a few glitches which I've come across where I found that certain people don't understand what the difference between culture, tradition and religious beliefs are. And I wanted to highlight this topic and go into details of it right now. When we look at certain cultures, certain traditions, and the difference between the religious beliefs, etc., although some people can get confused because they take the saying where Islam is a way of life. So what they do is, you need to understand that from the different cultures you have, let's take from our region, because the problems mainly is heavily focused in our region, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, in those places. Now the British people here, I'm finding, are getting more and more confused. This is the reason I'm doing this video, to give you a deeper understanding of what the culture, the traditions, the customs and the religious beliefs are. For example, when we look at the culture, I won't touch much on religion because then it goes too deep into the topic, but I will give you a brief on the religion. When we look at the cultural aspect of things, someone from Europe, someone from America, someone from Asia, whether it's someone from Middle East, someone from Africa, people have different cultures. And the cultural aspect of things is quite complex, because when you start to travel, you start to see this. And then you have traditions. Again, when you start to travel, you see different traditions. Now, to give you the difference, I'm going to highlight a key point here. So from our region, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, you can understand that when we look at some of the cultural things like spice, this is cultural. So culturally, everybody has spicy food over there. You go to the Middle East, they don't have spicy food. You go to, the Europe, they have different types of cuisines, etc., European cuisines. These are cultural, and then you have traditions which fall under. Now, cultures and traditions, they're very similar. However, when we look at the traditions are more to do with, for example, certain families will have certain traditions, certain villages will have certain traditions, certain areas. So it's more of the regional things. So the culture is the broader region, and the traditions is the smaller regions, and the customs is, again, it goes even smaller. So that's how you break it down. Now let's give a few scenarios. When you go to India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and those places, people have spicy food. That is culturally, that's the way. Again, you go to traditions. For example, the people of Bangladesh, they wear a lungi. So for those of you who are not familiar with a lungi, you can type it in Google and check what a lungi is. I think the English word for it is sarong, by the way. So they have a sarong. This is what the people wear in Bangladesh, and it's tradition, And again, you can say, you go to the Pakistan region or India and those places, and the people, they wear the salwar, and that's their culture. And even in India, like, they have the Indian salwar. So if you look at the Maharaj of India and the people of ancient times, and you just have to see a few movies movies and you'll understand what I'm trying to say. And they also wear the turban as well. So they have the Indian turban, which is quite famous in India as well. So that is the traditions. Okay, going to the Middle East, and they had their traditions as well. They had their cultural side and they had their traditions as well. And for example, the long jubba, which which is the Islamic garment as well, because it's what the Prophet ﷺ used to wear. Originally, it was the tradition of the Arabs, the long dress and the way they have it, especially the cloak. The cloak is the tradition as well. So these days, like when people become sheikhs, they wear the cloak, and that's the tradition of the Arabs anyway. And you'll see like there's a few other things which the Arabs have, and it's in their tradition. Again, you go to places like Egypt, you go to places like Morocco, but the dress sense is slightly different. Although it's similar to the Arabs in Middle East, because the Arabs in Middle East, when you see the way they dress, it's the long jubba, it's plain, simple, and they have the head scarf with the round thing, call it the belly. It's in Bangla. So they have the belly on, and that's the tradition of the Middle Eastern Arabs, the way they prefer to dress. You go to the North Africa, they're Arabs as well, okay? And you go to the Moroccan side, Tunisian side, and you see the way they dress and their traditions, it's slightly different. The dress is slightly different. You go to, again, you move to Egypt, again, the dress is slightly different. More baggier. In Libya, Morocco, they have the wool, like thick clothing. Again, you go to Persia, Iran side, Iraq, and they have and even like the Sufis, and they have big, thick clothing, the wool, and all of this. So those traditions were from the different regions, and the clothing wear, the garments were from them. You go to China, even the Chinese back then, they used to wear similar clothes to the Arabs, or longer dresses, shall we say, even for the men, the longer. You can see the martial arts movies or something, and you see that the masters, they're always wearing the traditional clothing. So clothing really is a traditional thing. It hasn't really got a strong bond with the religion itself. Not only that, but the main thing is the rules of clothing within Islam. For example, for the men, when they go to pray, they can't have their back showing, and that's the rule. So they shouldn't have the back showing, or else the prayer is invalid. And that's the thing. So that's why they have, and also it's better to have the turban, the fagdi on, because when you pray with the fagdi on, you're getting more rewards. And I won't go into details of that. You can ask a sheikh who's more qualified than me to go into the details of that. But I know that there's a lot more reward from, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 70 times more or 70,000 times more, one of them, which is huge, huge, just for wearing the turban, which because it's a good sunnah, it's a great sunnah. Again, things like this, like I'm wearing the rings, even the rings that the Prophet ﷺ he used to wear, these were the sunnah as well. There's so many sunnahs. Eating sitting down on the floor, this was a sunnah. Eating with the hand, this was the sunnah. There's so many sunnahs out there. Not only that, some of it was the customs as well. Again, you go to like Pakistan region and Afghanistan region, and they have Kabul. I believe Kabul is a place in Afghanistan. And in Bangladesh, when I was younger, when I was growing up in Bangladesh, we had a garment in the madrasa where I used to study, and the garment was called the Kabuli set. So they always used to call this the Kabuli set. Reason being, because it originated in Kabul, this style of dressing. So they had the Kabuli set, and they also had the Punjabi set, because that originated in Punjab. So you had the way we used to dress in Bangladesh. We used to have, the tradition was we wear the lungi, okay? So the lungi is the Bangladeshi dress, and then they have either the Bangladeshi shirt, which comes up to the 3/4, like, you know, it's not as long as the jubba or the Kabuli, but it is shorter. So the Bangladeshi shirt, which this was the traders and stuff used to wear. One of my uncle was a trader, and he used to be very traditionally Bangladeshi, and he used to go everywhere, and that was his business dress as well. So I know, and he used to have his gamsa, you know, and this was tradition for Bangladesh at the time.